To share with you briefly my story to daily practice and why I'm so passionate about it. So, I used to own a yoga studio and organic spa with my twin sister, Holly. It was called Vasu. It was heaven on earth. And we owned that studio for about 5 years, and it was wildly successful. And it was home for me. And it was a beautiful place and space for myself and others to gather and practice yoga, among other things. And so at that time, my my practice was, you know, taking a yoga class 3 times a week, 4 times a week on a good week. And that was deeply fulfilling for me then. And it was the best that I was able to do at that time. I didn't know about sadhana. I didn't really know about daily practice or the value of it then. And at that time, when my mornings looked like scrolling for half an hour or so in bed, quickly brushing my teeth, throwing lunch in a bag, putting some peanut butter on toast, heading out the door, heading to Dunkin' Donuts, and starting the day at the studio. Yeah, that was my daily practice. But then we decided to close the studio during the pandemic, a few months into the pandemic. And then I was at home with all my tools. I brought the mats from the studio and the oils from the studio and the props and the blankets and the eye pillows and a wide open morning. Hmm. And silence and grief and anger and sadness and loss and rage and loneliness and all the emotions that were surfacing at that time after closing our business during the pandemic. And one day at a time, I began a daily practice. And in the beginning, that looked like sitting in a slice of sunshine on my meditation cushion and crying. But as the days rolled by, I continued to show up. I didn't realize that I was cultivating sadhana then. I didn't even know what sadhana was. I didn't know what sadhana was until I did my Kundalini training a few months later. But I showed up every single day. And then I moved around the country, and then I moved to Costa Rica, and there was no studio for me to plug into. There was no consistent external space and place for me to reach for. And I had to cultivate it within. And there it was. I found the divinity. I found the safety within. My inner child started to relax because I showed up for her every day. And slowly I started to realize how impactful a daily practice was for me, especially during the emotional turbulence that I was experiencing, especially during being a nomad for 3 years. My altar, my mat, my breath, my intention, my heart became the constant that I could count on and rely on. Hmm. So, sadhana, a spiritual practice that evokes the divinity within. It's a weaving, a slow nurturing of a connection with yourself. And I know from the work that I do with women that so many of us have forgotten who she even is, what she even needs. It takes courage to sit with ourselves every day. But if we can make it more inviting, more enjoyable, more pleasurable, it gets a little bit easier. And eventually, what feels like one more thing that we have to do becomes, I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning and get onto my mat because it's so nourishing and rewarding and nurturing. Okay, so trust that process, that initially cultivating your daily practice will require some effort as you get the momentum building, but eventually it gets so yummy that you have no choice but to step on your mat every day. Okay,